Discovered NASA's horrifying secret. I'm the last surviving member of the Kronos project, a top-secret NASA mission to search space for extraterrestrial life. I was always excited to find out whether aliens were real, but after a horrifying discovery, I'm convinced NASA is trying to kill me. In 1988, the Department of Defense and NASA co-founded the secret Kronos project. As a highly renowned scientist, I was promptly invited. We used satellites and telescopes to search the far regions of space for signs of life beyond our solar system. I just never could have guessed that our newest discovery would be so much more terrifying than that. In 2004, a signal was detected from the Boots Void, which is a massive area of nothingness in space, far bigger than anything you can imagine. And when I say there is nothing, I really mean nothing. It's essentially a definitive null zone in the universe devoid of anything, all except for a single continuous signal. My colleagues and I were sitting in the mission control room when the detection alarm started to go off, signifying that a signal had been detected from deep space. We triangulated the source of the signal, and to our shock, it was right in the center of the void. Given the vast empty region of space, we initially thought it was a system malfunction, but when we restarted it, it began immediately reporting a signal coming from those coordinates once again. We had originally thought we were just picking up fragments of a supernova or stellar burst of a long-dead star that had once been in that section of space, but that hypothesis was quickly disproven when we were able to filter through the background data and convert it into an audio format. It wasn't one long wave of static that you would normally detect from such cosmic events. It was a rhythmic series of beeps that sounded eerily like a heartbeat. Now, of course, we were miles away from actually confirming or denying that this signal was the work of some advanced alien civilization, but we were still absolutely ecstatic over the finding. I don't remember seeing a single one of the faces in there, not smiling from ear to ear, while that beating, pulsing signal repeated itself over and over again through the speakers of the control center. We followed the proper procedures and contacted our administrators and awaited further instructions as we aimed every satellite and listening device we had at our disposal at those coordinates. I remember feeling like a kid on Christmas Eve as I was driving home that night, so impossibly eager to see what the next day would bring. Unfortunately, the days would roll into months, then into years, until the next chapter of the audio single would present itself. On August 24, 2009, we were given the go-ahead by the Obama administration to send a reply signal into the same region of the void that the signal was still coming from. This was mainly done as a ceremonial milestone, given the fact that the region of space was so far away that it would take 1,400 million years for a reply to our message would even reach us. Given that the message was still a continuous repetition of 2 beats per second, we decided to send a similar frequency using a Morse code. That night at around 3 a.m., I received a call from my boss concerning the signal. I'll never forget how disappointed and yet terrified his voice was over the phone. "The signal," he said. "It just stopped." For years, that seemed to be the end of our little interstellar communications, but we still carried on with our research, always keeping at least one monitoring device locked on the targeted coordinates of the void. We had a few detected bursts of information that piqued our interests, but nothing like the other signal we had gotten before. That was until 8 months ago, when we were going through a routine series of scans, we received yet another transmission from the void. One I'm still trying to come to terms with, not because it began again, but because it defied the very laws of physics. They replied to us in Morse code, saying the word goodbye. It was a reply to the message we sent nearly 11 years ago. Somehow a communication that should have transpired over a course of 1,400 million years took place in just 11. It didn't make any sense. It still doesn't. None of what was happening made any logical sense, and that wasn't even the ridiculous part. As soon as the transmission was received and translated, the empty space around the center of the void began to expand as the surrounding star system seemed to just blink out of existence. One by one, like a series of light bulbs being turned off, the stars began to go out. It was almost as if we were watching it occur in real time, which was another astronomical impossibility. You see, we can only observe as fast as light travels, which means if we were watching something that was 700 million light years away, we would be seeing it as it was 700 million years ago. But now, we were watching an event unfold that was absolutely cosmically impossible. The rate at which the stars were vanishing was expanding the void at a rate of nearly 5 million light years a minute. I don't know how to describe it other than saying that the dark nothingness was growing faster than the speed of light itself, seemingly consuming and extinguishing everything in its path. All the while, that message just kept ringing throughout the room. I don't know how or why, but very quickly the implications of this flooded over the control center as my colleagues and I began to realize the gravity of this impossible event. There was no argument amongst us whether this was possible or not. It clearly wasn't, yet it was happening all the same. "At this rate, it will reach the solar system in a little under a year," said our supervisor, who sounded weak and hoarse. We were all thinking the same thing. In a little under 360 days, this cosmic expanse would reach our very own Earth. We of course didn't know what would happen when it did, but in astronomy, you always think of the worst. If the sun was somehow extinguished by the void, as all the surrounding stars were, it would take a little under a year for the Earth to become an uninhabitable wasteland. That was, of course, even if the planet wasn't completely consumed and absorbed into nothingness as well. Soon, everyone began to understand the severity of the situation and dashed out of the room. Just as a few others were making their way towards the exit, it suddenly dawned on me as well. The message, it must have been telling us, and everything else in its path, goodbye. Whatever was in the void was coming for us, coming for everything. At the time, we really weren't thinking of the consequences of our actions. We weren't focused on the repercussions of suddenly jumping ship from a top-secret government program. The only thing racing in our mind was the sweeping wall of nothingness hurtling towards us faster than the speed of light. I went straight home and drowned myself in a bottle, hoping to wake up the next morning to realize everything was just some crazy dream. I wouldn't be so lucky, of course. That night at about 1 a.m., I was awoken by my phone. When I went to check the unknown caller, it turned out to be one of my colleagues, Dr. Maverick, who was one of the last men to even leave the facility that day. "You've got to run, Adrian," he yelled, trying to catch his breath. I had wondered at the time what had caused him such physical exertion. "What are you talking about?" I asked, as my head pounded with a throbbing migraine. "They're scrubbing the project, cleaning house. Don't you know what that means? They're coming after us." That first sentence was all I needed to sober up. If what he said was true, then word had gotten up the chain of command, and they had now come to knowledge about both the discovery and its implications, as well as the science team's reaction to said implications. If they were scrubbing the project, then we would be the first to be cleaned up. I asked him, "How do you know about this?" He said, "I tried to go over to McGuire's house to discuss possible outcomes about the expansion, but when I got there his house was burning to ashes, and 2 of our other colleagues won't answer their phones, and on top of all that, I think I'm being followed." At this point, I was terrified for my life. "Are you sure?" I asked as I made my way to the bedroom window, searching for any sign of government hitmen. "Yes, absolutely. There's been a black unmarked car following me the entire way," he said. "Listen, you've got to get the hell out of there right now while you've still got time. If you're half as smart as I know you are, then..." Those were the last words I heard from him before the signal gave out. I didn't need much more of a warning after that. I quickly got some things together and hit the highway. I've been on the run ever since then, dodging any sign of suspicion by moving state to state, county to county.